Також команди обговорили, як повернути більше безпеки Чорному морю, нормальному судноплавству.
The Black Sea, a critical battleground in the Russia-Ukraine war. After months of attacks on ports and vessels, both sides have agreed to eliminate the use of force in the region. But why now? And is this ceasefire a turning point, or just a strategic move? For centuries, the Black Sea has been a vital economic and military asset. Since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, Ukraine's coastline has been under siege. Russia has blockaded Ukrainian ports, targeting grain exports crucial to the global economy. In response, Ukraine has used naval drones and missiles to challenge Russian dominance. The result? A high-stakes battle affecting world food supplies, energy markets, and military strategy. The agreement seeks to halt attacks in the Black Sea. Both sides have committed to allowing safe passage for civilian and cargo ships. However, there's a catch. Russia demands sanctions relief for its agricultural exports. Ukraine, backed by its allies, is skeptical. For Kyiv, lifting sanctions could weaken Western pressure on Moscow. Meanwhile, a temporary halt to energy infrastructure attacks has been agreed upon. But will it hold?
I wanted to ask you about the talks in Saudi Arabia. It sounds like you made some progress on a Black Sea ceasefire. Could you update us on that? What happens now?
So we've made a lot of progress on two fronts, on both sections that we call them sections, but they're much more than that, Russia, Ukraine, and also the Middle East, and we'll see what happens. We're in deep discussions with Russia and Ukraine, and I would say it's going well, but it's a situation we should have never had to even think about, should have never happened. And on the Middle East, that's been going on for a lot of years. Centuries and centuries, it just keeps going, and we are making a lot of progress, so that's all I can report, but some very, very big talks are going and detailed talks are going on right now on both fronts.
The West is divided. The United States is reviewing Russia's demands, wary of any move that could strengthen Putin's economy. The European Union, heavily reliant on Ukrainian grain, cautiously supports the ceasefire but won't ease sanctions easily. NATO sees this as a strategic moment. If peace efforts gain traction, it could reduce tensions, but if Russia exploits the pause, it could escalate the war elsewhere.
Кто будет обеспечивать чистоплотность нацистского режима в Киеве?
When the president said, "We are for a ceasefire, but there are nuances," he questioned, who will ensure that the Nazi regime in Kyiv doesn't break the promise? We, Russia, are also in favor of considering ways not to cause any damage to the energy infrastructure. This is not in our interests. And, as the president said, we are in favor of resuming the Black Sea Initiative in some form that is more acceptable to everyone. The Black Sea Initiative was discussed in Riyadh as a priority. Our position is simple. I have just stated it roughly. We cannot trust this man's Zelensky's word for it. We will need clear guarantees, and there may be guarantees taking into account the sad experience of agreements with Kyiv. Guarantees may be only the result of a direct order from Washington to Zelensky and his team to do this and not any other way. And it seems to me that our American partners have accepted this signal. They understand that only Washington can achieve positive results in stopping terrorist attacks, shelling of civilian infrastructure and energy infrastructure not related to the military-industrial complex.
The two announcements, which are obviously, which are welcome. These issues, notably on the freedom of navigation and Black Sea, are issues that, you know, the Secretary General, his team, and notably Rebecca Greenspan and others, have been working on since almost the start of this, the start of the conflict, and there continues to be discussions on these issues.
Beyond military strategy, this deal has massive economic stakes. The Black Sea is a gateway for Ukrainian and Russian grain, feeding millions worldwide. Attacks on ports have disrupted global food prices. Energy shipments through the region also impact Europe's stability. A functional ceasefire could stabilize trade, but any violation risks another economic shock. History shows Russia often uses ceasefires to regroup. Ukraine knows this and remains on high alert. While diplomacy is ongoing, military tensions haven't disappeared. If Russia gains sanctions relief without meaningful concessions, Kyiv may see the deal as a trap rather than a peace effort.
Про що ми домовились, що може бути тиша на морі і вільне судноплавство, ви, в принципі, це знаєте. І окрім того, що коротко сформульовано в
First of all, we agreed that there can be a maritime ceasefire and free navigation. You, in principle, know this already. In addition to what is briefly formulated in the statement, you are going to read it. We are grateful to the American side for this result. It is important that we also talked separately with the American side about infrastructure. We spent a lot of time looking at this. What is meant by this is that if there is a maritime ceasefire and free navigation, we are also talking about infrastructure. We will see how it will be implemented. We will talk about this separately with you, journalists, about the details. However, what to transport if a missile hits a grain elevator? So for example, I had such a question, as an example, and our side communicated with the American side. They believe that a maritime ceasefire and free navigation, free civil navigation, says everything and that port infrastructure. It doesn't say in the statement what happens if someone violates the agreements. I understand why, because the American side really wanted all this not to fall apart. These are the first agreements. They don't want them to fall apart. That is why they did not want to go into many details. And still, we will have to understand the answers to each of the details with you. If we see that someone violates, we believe that we then appeal to the American side through all possible channels, with the facts and evidence that the Russian side violated something.
If the ceasefire fails, the consequences could be severe. Ukraine may intensify naval drone strikes. Russia could retaliate by targeting Ukrainian ports even harder. The West may reconsider its military aid strategy. And global markets? Another shockwave of rising food and fuel prices.
The ceasefire agreement that was brokered today allows for third-party countries to help implement the agreement. What does that look like and who's going to be
The
involved?
ceasefire agreement?
Yes, the maritime ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine.
Well, they're going to get together. Look, it's they agreed to something and it got broken. There's tremendous animosity. There's a lot of hatred, as you can probably tell. And it allows for people to get together, mediate it, arbitrate it, and see if we can get it stopped. And I think it will. That'll get stopped.
This ceasefire is more than a battlefield pause. It's a test of trust, strategy, and diplomacy. Will it pave the way for broader peace, or is it just another chapter in an ongoing war? The coming weeks will tell.